Poland, as a member of European Union, is and a friend of the United States, of course, it is under great influence of those institutions of the US and the EU. But generally, nevertheless, despite all these pressures from external persons, it's in the hand of the Polish people. And I believe that someday we will easily get in the car and visit each other.
Ukraine requests that chairpersonship rule out of order this participant and prohibit his participation in this and future events. I thank you.
Mikhail Chernov, Inter-Regional Social Movement for Democracy and Human Rights. We have been talking here for 2 days on the role of civil society in promoting and protecting human rights and international humanitarian law. But both universal human rights and international humanitarian law, based on principles of humanism and equality, are being broken and destroyed here in Europe by the European institutions, the European civil society, and the European media themselves. This process of destruction is strongly connected with the approach towards Russia and its peoples, who within the pan-European discourse are deprived of basic rights for their independent future, vision, and even life. The narrative that is being promoted is that there are two kinds of human communities, people of culture and civilization, and those who are excluded from culture. Peoples, communities, and nations of high European culture, and that are endowed with rights, and those who do not have any rights. This is what the recent resolution of Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe, which contains the thesis that decolonization of Russia, the Russian Federation, is a necessary condition for the establishment of democracy, it is all about this. The attitude towards Russia and its peoples is nothing but a new edition of Nazism. The essence of Nazism is that there are human communities of high culture and non-humans, that there are peoples and communities that deserve submission and punishment in any case. Back then, people of the superior rights, the self-called Aryans, were elevated to a dubious pedestal, while the Jews and barbaric Russians and other peoples of the East were written down as subhumans. Now history is repeating itself. Paradoxically, but conceptually, there is a quite similar approach to Ukraine and the Ukrainians. The statesmen of Europe and NATO do not hesitate to say that only Ukrainians should fight and die for Europe. Together with their unquestioned support for Kiev regime and ignoring its crimes, this approach deprives Ukrainians of their most important life, the most important right, the right to life. Every European humanitarian organization and civil society will be a direct responsibility for the Nazi suicide of Europe. Thank you.
Европы фактически уже с принятой ситуацией, согласно которой одни люди имеют право на все, на свободу, демократию, гражданское общество, расследование каких-то преступлений и проблем, а другие люди не имеют права вообще ни на что. И этими другими людьми, в общем-то, оказывается Россия, ее граждане, вне зависимости от национальности, вне зависимости от религиозной принадлежности.
I told something more or less the same which I told you. You also.
Maybe we can record some kind of interview about this.
What you bring here and your colleagues, that there is no symmetry in these international bodies like this OSCE we are now, that there is only one narrative accepted, and I heard that there was some voices from Litva or somewhere that you cannot even mention other perspectives, like for example that also there are some sharing of Donetsk from Ukrainian side. Yes, here is the report about civilian casualties in Donetsk, and there was some witnesses from the Ukrainian side who was reporting on using like civilian buildings, schools. And tell me more. What's
there was a report on not using of these schools, but on looting of the schools. Looting of the schools by the Ukrainian military, And then after this looting of a good technical equipment like plasma TV, televisions and computers, and shelling and destroying these schools, to cover this looting. That was a part of the report. There were lots of reports. And I agree that it is a problem. It is a problem that different views and different reports are not taken into account in the European Union. It is everywhere, and unfortunately, I think the same situation is in Poland. And I think that is very important that Poland is a neighbor of Russia. And I think
Obviously.
And I think that we should have good relations, and we should not let the third parties to intervene in our relations.
Third parties, yes, that's exactly. This is also what we are doing in Poland, that there is some hashtag even that this is not our war, because formally we are not in any alliance, for example, with Ukraine. They are also not part of the NATO treaty. So all what's going on in the front with Russia and Ukraine, it's not our interest there. I can do my research to understand the situation, but what we have is pure propaganda, and because of that we already lose like hundreds of billions of zlotys without the control of the parliament, without the acknowledging of that by the Poles. It is decisions are made only on the top and communicated top down on the society. And after this situation started, there was like shutting down all independent voices, news presses, YouTube channels, which potentially can have different voices than the mainstream. So this is, attack on freedom of speech on the very, very large scale. There are processes between even my colleagues from different press about blocking their website. And even I'm not politician, I have the feeling of injustice, and that something is very, very wrong. And from what I read about United States interest and how they don't want, for example, China to cooperate with the European Union, and they want to have the monopoly on the energy suppliers. And all what they do is to manipulate, political classes, media, to create different conflicts, destroying some countries just to have this monopoly. And we are like objects for them. They don't treat us as partners. They don't want to cooperate. They just use our resources, our people, our land for their purposes. And for me, as a citizen of Poland, is like.
Poland is rather a big country with rather big population, with normal industrial and agricultural potential, and that means that Poland could, in ideal circumstances, Poland could be an independent and very strong nation of Europe.
I'm not so sure after we lose like all our industries and mining and so on after the 89, we cannot compete in many industrial.
I said potentially in general.
We have like a lot of smart people. We have the good location to be a transfer country. For example, we have access to the Baltic Sea, so there is a lot of potential. I also saw this potential, but I was crying seeing how this potential is wasted during actions of people who are influencing this country.
And I think it could be very dangerous for Poland trying to revise the post World War II history, because Poland in these current actual borders, it is a product of the Second World War, and the voices of superpowers of that time that helped Poland to form its actual borders with Silesian and West Prussia and the great parts of East Prussia within Polish borders. It is everything based on international law, and international law which formed after the Second World War and after that results. If for example, if we don't follow this general international law, I mean, if Poland would like to add to some territories in the east, I mean, Ukrainian or Belarusian, it will break everything.
You need to understand the situation after Putin bring this case to the public in some of his speech. It gets some opinion in Poland that there is not the case, that there is we don't see any this kind of intent from the Polish side, and because of this, it's taken as a propaganda that the Poland want to have like Lvov as part of the Poland again, but this is not the true. There are different misunderstandings.
You should decide and analyze these cases and these ideas or these intentions. You should analyze it yourself make.
For me, to see what's going on is important. Who is making money on what? And there were some very high-level meetings between Mr. Zelensky, for example, and Larry Fink from the BlackRock. So for me, it's obvious that the war is funded by the big oligarch businesses, and it's not like Polish people who want to be empire. It's not the case. So I need to push on that. But other things like this disproportionality of voices, the lack of freedom of speech, like banning Russia Today, for example, all over the world, like banning Olympics representation. It's even not funny anymore. They treat us like kids. They train people like animals to what to believe, who to condemn. People don't understand what they say. They are like only emotional propagated signals for them who they should love. Now they love Israel, tomorrow they will love somebody else, and of course they will sacrifice Ukraine in the next step, and Mr. Zelensky will be over like in maybe a month, and there will be another story.
I don't know, I'm not a Sibylla to talk on to give Mr. Zelensky this amount of time or that, so well.
Yeah, but I'm seeing what's happened with the COVID, yes, how it ended in one day. And I also saw what happened after 7 October of the situation between Israel and Palestine, that everybody forget Ukraine, like immediately. So this is like a media issue now.
That's their fate.
Even if there is a war in Ukraine right now, people are not talking about this like before, There is a lot of wars all over the world we don't talk about. We don't talk about Palestine, for example, here. Why? Europe is supporting Israel on this, and people are dying every day.
Well, the moderator answered this question.
You ask about
No, not me. A Turkish representative asked about the issue. Why do we not discuss it? And the moderator answered that we discuss only OSCE countries. So, if to conclude, I think that despite many differences, Russia and Poland has lots of common, and I think for ordinary people, for ordinary Russian, I mean not ethnic but nationality, Russian nationals and Polish nationals, they have lots of common with each other. And when I'm, for example, trying to read some in Polish, forums, trying to read and understand, what people think, what people do, how do they say, how do they express themselves, and I see lots of common
Yeah, possibly yes. I also agree that we have more common than these historical issues, and also here we have the same with other countries as well. But in the modern times, we should focus on like innovation, trade, finding ourselves in this multipolar world we have now. And this institution, like European Union and others, they need to revise if they want to not become obsolete, you know. Because if they have only one voice, why we need them? If like in the United Nations, they also only accept United States will. So what international bodies they are if there is no possibility to get consent on so obvious issues as we have today?
Well, I think that the fate of a nation is in the hands of this nation. So of course, Poland, as a member of European Union, is and a friend of the United States. Of course, it is under great influence of those institutions, of the US and the EU. But generally, nevertheless, despite all these pressures from external persons, it's in the hand of the Polish people. And I believe that someday we will easily get in the car and visit each other.
Or by train.
Or by train, yeah. And we will have a possibility to drink something together.
Also to visit Ukraine. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome.